Dalia, Sadiq.
Hello, Yasmin and Naif.
Welcome to Pivot.
Thank you for having me.
You're one of the first people I met in Dubai. Well, the group.
Yeah.
In 2009, early days when Dubai was a very different place. And I'd like you actually to do a little bit of an introduction for yourself.
Okay. I'm Dalia Sadiq. I've been in Dubai since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Palestinian. I grew up in California. I love Dubai. It's the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mother of 2 children. And that's me so far.
Well, you have a book with you.
Yeah.
That will start this pivot on the right note, I think. So you have partnered with Dima Al-Alami,
Yeah.
who creates. She's actually been on Pivot and discussed this, but she helps, sort of up and coming authors or just people who would like to write a book, create books. And what she has done, considering what's going on in Palestine at the moment, is allow Palestinians in exile to share their stories. So you are one of those people that has written inside this book. If you want, here,
Yeah.
the book. Look how pretty. And tell me a little bit about this.
So this is an incredible project because it's ensuring that the exile stories from 1948, 1967, our grandparents' stories, people's stories of Al-Nakba are encapsulated and never forgotten. And I think that's something that really defines Palestinians, is to always remember that we will never forget, we will return, inshallah. And this really kind of encapsulates this. She took 48 different stories and had the authors write their grandparents or their own exile stories.
Okay.
And give a life to what it was like to be in Palestine at the time and what it meant and how and what happened to them afterwards. So it's a really beautiful story. The proceeds, which is amazing, all the proceeds of the story goes to PCRF for amputee children and orphan children that in Gaza from what has happened in the past 8 months. So I really do cherish this book. And I also love that this book is inclusive because it gives whoever, if a Palestinian purchases it, there's somewhere in the back where you can write your own story as well. So not only is it a beautiful coffee book to have, but then you can also write your own memory of it. And I think that's really beautiful and important to keep for Palestinians because this is what defines us, and it's what defines me.
It definitely defines you.
Yeah.
I feel like Palestine is very much your identity, your soul, and something you've been fighting for since I've known you, very loudly and strongly, which I respect so much. And so where can people purchase this book?
So on 48stories.com,
Okay.
You can purchase it. And
48, number 4.
48, yeah, number
Okay.
4 stories.com.
I'll put that in the link
yes.
when people watch this.
Yeah. And she's sold 3,000 copies already.
Wow.
And they've raised $106,000 for PCRF, which is incredible. So it really feels good to be part of this. And as you said, Palestine defines me. I try my best in any way in my own capacity to be able to help. So worked on this. I've tried to do other smaller projects. I'm making sure to be a mindful consumer as well. So, it's really important that we try to do, not just as Palestinians, but as humans, anything that we can that's in our power to make sure that these voices are heard and this just and humane cause is fought for.
You are the person that has always made sure Palestinian voices are heard, because it's one thing to advocate for people who are suffering in the midst of the suffering, and it's another thing to advocate for them when things are not as bad. I mean, it's always been pretty horrific in Palestine, in the occupied territories, but what's happening now is a full-fledged war on humans, but children ultimately.
Yeah.
So you've been that voice then and you are this voice now. So you should be really proud of yourself, and we should all take, you know, a piece out of your book on this. And yeah, just keep going.
I mean, I think it happens with a lot of Palestinians, but I think I've been lucky enough with my family and my parents, Allah yarhamhum, God rest their soul, that my family it's been ingrained since birth. But I think it really does happen with most Palestinians, is that, you know, ensuring that you keep that identity, because, you know, you have to. It's almost like you have to. So I've always fought for it. I've always tried my best. I wish I could do more.
Why do you have to fight for that? Why is it so important to keep that identity so strong?
Because it's at risk, you know, and I think when something's at risk, it's not like I have a country I do have a country, but I've always been faced with that, even in the States, like, where are you from? Oh, I'm Palestinian. Oh, Pakistan. Oh, are you this? Oh, Palestine. There's so many negative connotations with it as well. And in the end, like, our stories are real and it's trying to be erased. So even projects like this are really important. Art is important. Sharing media is important. Yeah. Again, I think anything in your capacity to ensure that that's not forgotten and that's fought for is so important for this cause and for humanity anyways. When you're pro-Palestinian, you're also pro anything that's going wrong. It's not that I just focus on Palestine because I'm Palestinian, but I try to, everything that's going on in the world, like, empathize with them, try to push their voices as well, as much as I can.
I think you have to always put yourself, or try to put yourself, in the position of people who don't have a voice and people who need you. So I think we're born into lives that are a little bit more fortunate, obviously, not a little, like a lot more fortunate.
Yeah.
So if you were them, what would you want? And you just have to do that and actually ask them and take the time. I mean, currently in this exact day, it's a completely different case. I mean, yeah. I speak to loads of people who are in Gaza on Instagram, and they just need money to try and either rebuild a life to some degree, or escape, or just even buy the basics. So yeah, I think it's about putting yourself in their shoes as much as you possibly can, and for the time being. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Yeah,
I mean, you've also advocated a lot for it, and like in this recent months, been posting. I know it's like a mental drain, but yeah, I think it's important.
Which isn't what I've focused on. Yeah, obviously it takes a toll. Who cares?
Yeah, like, but then you have to push through. You have to push through. Yeah.
Well done. I haven't actually bought the book yet, so I'm going to do that. And I think that's a great piece to have at home and to have for my kids.
Yes.
And to even show, you know, sort of Faisal's parents who are Palestinian, who went through this. So
exactly.
Amazing. And well done, Dima.
Yeah.
Shout out to
well done, Dima.
Because she was actually my first pivot ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
she's amazing. She's amazing. Yeah. And she's worked really, really hard and has done this and has partnered up with incredible people to make sure that this can happen and to make sure that all the proceeds go to PCRF, which is really difficult to do. Yeah. So a lot of amazing people got involved, and alhamdulillah, I think, you know, it's great. It's a great project, and it's a beautiful book to have.
Yeah, it looks so pretty.
Yeah.
It looks very Palestinian, like everything, every touch on it is just, oh, yep, that's Palestine.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, this is, I don't want to say a slightly different pivot, but it is, because when people come on and I choose people to interview, I focus more on their pivot. And although I am going to be focusing on your pivot, another reason why I really felt it'd be important that I talk to you on here is because I've gone through ups and downs recently in sort of identifying, let's say, kid struggles a little bit with one of my children. He's going through his struggles at school, and that trickles into the home, and then you have to identify what's going on. And I've also been doing this since he was much younger as well, so this isn't new. This is just something that kind of culminated and then rears up more when they come to the age of 6 or 7, because you're able to really see more because they're in school and the jump from K2 to grade 1 is much higher. So anyways, I've gone through this. you were my rock in this, because I don't even remember how we started talking about this, when or how or where we were, but maybe I called you or messaged you. I honestly have no
feel like it
recollection.
was a gathering at Lama's at one point or something. I think, yeah, I think it was.
I've kind of blocked it out. But anyways, we spoke. You gave me a sense of safety and support, and you seemed experienced in dealing with such a thing and not fearful. So I was filled with a lot of fear because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what people to speak to. And it was giving me a lot of stress. So you seemed experienced, and I want to discuss with you and your experience with this, because I do feel this is so important for mums, especially with younger kids who might be noticing certain things within their kids and might be a bit like me. I don't know if you were like this when you went through your experience. But I feel mums and dads, not just mums, families need a little bit of help or guidance, or even if this helps one person, maybe go to the right person and help get their kids checked in some way. But I find this really important. So could you tell me a little bit about your experience and when you first noticed any signs or symptoms or signals that your son may need a little bit of support or help?
Yeah. So Ahmad's my son. He's 12 years old. You know that.
Beautiful boy.
My boy, my first boy. And I think, with the first child, you're sometimes, you don't know any better, Rida and I are kids having a kid, and
that's a good way of saying it. It's like a kid having a kid.
And I think we still feel like children, and we're navigating through this. And when they're younger, so Ahmad's he is on the spectrum. He's autistic, and it took a very long time for them to diagnose it because, I don't know, he was a million other things before he was diagnosed with autism. But when he was younger, I think when they're 2 or 3, when he was around 2, he started, he wasn't putting together sentences. He was speaking, but he wasn't putting together sentences. So we noticed a delay in language.
Okay.
I think that was like the first kind of little signs. And then at nursery, they were like, oh, well, maybe go get him assessed, check his language. At the time, we got a speech therapist. It wasn't helping. And then we, started doing occupational therapy, and that helped a lot. So I realized, wait, there's something. It's not just speech delay. Like he needed to organize something in his mind to be able to start focusing on language and put things together. But I started noticing those differences, but at that time, you're like, oh, you see another child that's a bit similar, a little bit similar. I think as they grow older and they go into the school system more and more, that's when I started realizing he is different.
Would that be around my time now, sort of 6,
Absolutely.
7?
More like probably around 5. It was starting to flare up and show. And then there was the conversations of, oh, can you bring a shadow, an LSA into school? I'm like, okay. We never avoided it, so because we always kept trying to get him assessed. So we got sensory processing disorder, maybe ADHD, maybe. I guess he was always a little bit tricky because, first of all, I've learned that autism, there's no definition of autism. It's a spectrum. Because it's a spectrum, you're going to find a lot of people who are very verbal, and it might come off neurotypical to you, but they're definitely neurodiverse once you dig in. And I think that's something that I've learned, because Ahmad could trick you, especially at the younger age. He talks to you, he's social, but then there's these
I like
quirks.
that trick you, because you're in I think in one setting you're like, he's great.
Yeah.
Talking, amazing, engaging,
engaging,
no
playing.
And then in another setting, it's very much not like that.
Yeah. And that was the school setting mostly. I mean, there was always, of course, even out, but I think in the school setting, things just started.
More social. I think it's a more social setting where it's an environment that isn't as safe and isn't as familiar.
Yes.
Maybe.
and there's too much, and then there's pressures that are coming through, right? Because the older they get, the more they have to sit down, and sometimes they can't sit down, and then there's, you know, information coming at him, and he's like, wait, how am I supposed to focus with all these
There's
things?
too much going on.
Too much things going on, and I mean, we still have a very long journey, but we went through very, very difficult times in schools. We've switched schools several times, had horrible experiences. Twice we've switched schools.
Let me
actually,
pause
3
you
times.
there, because I'm going to ask you about schools. I want to go to, if you had to narrow down earlier signs, it would have been a speech delay.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you did occupational therapy and it helped, it means there was obviously a sensory
Absolutely.
A sensory issue.
Yes.
And anything social?
He was young at the time, but
Yeah, obviously.
yeah, he wouldn't play in the same way, let's say, as others. He was playing, but not in exactly the same way. It was a little bit different. He was playing. It was more, if I look back, it was more side to side. But then he's very lucky. We're very lucky to have lots of cousins around us. So he was kind of forced, and his sister, like, forced to play. It's not that he can't play, but it was more just side to side. I think maybe he wasn't meeting eye to eye with them just yet because his language was a little bit delayed. He has really funny quirks. So, you know, he might ask 100 questions if he doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And for another child, that's a bit annoying, you know? So it's learning those social cues. He doesn't have social cues. He's learning them.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And it's beautiful because it's just the way his mind works. But you know, we do live in a neurotypical world, and you have to play by these rules. But I think if you're neurodiverse and at least you own it, then when you're speaking to someone, and that's what we're trying Radanai to build for him, is that when he starts speaking, if someone's like, why are you asking so many questions, for him to say, like, look, I'm autistic, I need a few minutes, give me a few minutes just to get myself together, and then I can, you know, move on with the flow of conversation or play. So, but I mean, his cousins are amazing about it. My family is amazing. He's very lucky. I think also we got very lucky to be surrounded by that. But yeah, it's school is the UAE is very good at these things, but they're still far behind in some aspects. Are they pushing through?
UAE, do you think, or do you think it's schools, the education system in general?
Maybe it's a combination.
Okay.
I think there's really good visions here to keep pushing, and they're always on the side of the parent, especially if your child has extra needs or you know, special needs. They are, but I think schools are built in a certain way, and you have to fit into this certain way, and not everyone. It's not even about
the education system. It just doesn't fit very well for kids slightly outside the box.
Exactly, and it's not about autism or any kind of. It's just a little bit different, and you're not being able to mask and keep up. Things will fall apart for you, and they try to accommodate, but doesn't necessarily mean that system's in place.
So then what happens to these kids?
So I think this is where a parent like really needs to work hard, is that you need to become the advocate for your child. So you need to really be strong. Schools hate me. They know me and love me. They hate me and love me, but you need to put your...
I don't know if they love me. I think it's more hate at the moment. I think eventually they'll really love me.
They will love you because they love that you're standing up. You know, inshallah, like when you're in a good place, and again, let's say now I'm in a good place with Ahmad, but he's 12, like he's about to go through hormones. I have no idea what's coming for me.
Oh my God.
But for now, we're in a good place. It's a journey. I now understand that. Yeah. I know that it's never going to be, my job as a parent is just to equip him so that he can be able to go through this journey. I'm not going to be holding his hand through it all. I don't know. I think schools need to change a little bit. I think there are kids that need more accommodations, and it doesn't need to be an either or situation. I think some kids, especially that are on the spectrum, might fall into, okay, they have to go to a fully special needs school. And maybe they don't, if they were just accommodated. Maybe there's something in the middle. Right now, Ahmad's in a system that's beautiful. Like, it's 8 people in the class. But then he joins his mainstream class as well, and then he gets pulled out. So for the tougher subjects, the academics, it's a really nice balance.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It seems like you hit the sweet spot with the
So
balance.
far.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, I'm sure things will come up because I hit a sweet spot a few years back, but this is the first time in his life that we feel like, okay, now we're really, inshallah, moving in the right direction. We know there'll be lots of bumps, but at least we're gaining control over it.
You're very strong.
Yeah, very.
You're a tough cookie, and I think if anyone can be this person, like you're my person to go to, because you ooze confidence and strength when you're, especially with this in general, but like when it comes to this, I'm like, no, she knows what she's talking about. I need to talk to Dalia right now about this. And yeah, no, just keep doing what you're doing.
I mean, I think for any mom or dad, like going through, it's very hard to come to this place, because it's when your child's not okay, your whole life falls apart. It literally falls apart. Like when I think about those moments, alhamdulillah, but I just can't imagine what I went through. You know, I sat in school, I waited all day, I was waiting for calls, I was worried that he's also a big kid, so like his strength, like what might he do? It is terrifying. It's a really terrifying journey to go through, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy on the parents. It's not easy on the sibling. Like Lara, you know, my daughter, like it's very difficult. It was very difficult for her. He had to move schools. They were together. She was heartbroken. He was heartbroken. It's not easy. If your child's not okay, and it doesn't mean just with developmental issues, if they're sick, you know, God forbid, or khalas, your life is, it's how do you come out of that? And maybe with me as well.
Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
How do you come out of that? How did you get to the point where you were okay after feeling like potentially on the floor with upset, with worry, with anxiety about this? So how did you come out of that? Or was it a gradual process?
Well, I think I mean, you know, but like my dad passed away when he was 62. That was about 7 years ago, and my mom was
Which would have been at the peak of this as well.
So things were starting to, you know, get, exactly, because he was 4.5 when this happened. And then my mom, a few years later, also, she was 64, passed away. So that was very tragic for my life. And I still had to deal with this, and the impact on Imad as well was, it's not like he coped with it the same way we can cope. Yeah. I think that gave me a lot of strength, and I always think of my parents and the way they always said, you know, in Arabic they say everything maktub, everything is written. And my dad also was like, it's okay if Imad's a little bit different, you can do this, you are able to, you know, if you see a wall in front of you, you climb that wall. And it's that kind of perspective, that persistence and perseverance to push through, because what are my options? Am I going to just fall apart and give up, or am I going to advocate for this? Yeah. You know, and I think even coming out of that, the grief of my parents gave me a lot of strength to realize that, you know, we're put on this life, there's something more, we need to just, you know, go with it, roll with the punches and appreciate it. And again, when you look back at Palestine and what's happening, you're like, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, thank God where I'm at. Doesn't mean we need to, it doesn't mean what we're going through.
Diminish.
No.
You can't diminish what you go through.
No.
Because there's a lot worse happening.
Exactly. But it's good to gain perspective.
It is, it does, 100%.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something? Do you feel that, I'm looking at this in the blessing route, but do you feel that maybe having to focus on Imad during the time when you had lost your dad and then shortly after your mum may have been a blessing and may have given you a focus? Because I think losing your parents is probably, if not the hardest thing you went through or anyone goes through in their life. So did it give you something like an outlet to focus on and feel like, I need to keep going, I need to keep going?
Absolutely, 100%. I think even when I look at my siblings, even having children, I had a bigger issue with my child, but I'm saying just knowing that you have to, I remember always thinking, like my sister and I saying, you know, my mom and my dad both lost a parent around these ages, like 67 or a bit earlier, and they still made our lives very happy. And they weren't unfair to us because of their grief, right? So I think that's something in mind, like I have to continue. So that was a great, you know, motivator that I must, and it wasn't allowing me to just sit with my grief because there was no space for it, almost. There was no, I took a bit of space and then, yeah, I had to. I mean,
Do you feel you have processed your grief at this point?
I mean, Rida, when my mom passed away, he's like, I think you need to see a therapist. And he's like, I don't think you can cope with all of this. And it was so helpful. I loved it.
Oh, you did?
I did. And I knew I needed to because it was too much.
What kind of therapist did you see?
It was actually more of a grief.
Okay, counselor.
She's a psychologist,
Okay.
but it was. Sorry, I keep touching this.
No, it's fine. Enjoy. It's yours for the hour.
She was specifically for grief with Lighthouse. She was amazing. She's, you know, she taught me a lot too, because I think I've always been, it's okay, things are worse, people have it worse. I can, you know, and that's great and it's really important. But she allowed me to also allow myself to go through the emotions of things and let it pass through.
Of course.
And that helped me a lot. And I think with grief, it's not that you feel better, it's just that you learn to live with a missing arm or a missing, you know, part of your heart, and you just continue. You know, people know how to continue with that, and you try to make the best of this life. Yeah. So, and it probably translated into how I dealt with Ahmad as well. So it probably helped me a lot with that.
Back to Ahmad.
Yeah.
Because there are so many studies and information on autism today, which include maybe vaccines having a part to play in contributing to autism, an overload of metal toxicity in the body, whether that be coming from vaccines or not.
Yeah.
And even food. And look, you're the one sitting here with a child who is autistic. So what I'm saying, you're like, oh, this stuff, like you could either be doing that to me, or do you believe that any of this has credibility?
Well, Ahmad was diagnosed at 9, so it was a bit later, and we tried before that.
Is that late?
It is late.
It is late.
It is late. It is late. But I think because he was a bit tricky, so maybe that's why. I'm of the first camp of has nothing to do with it at all.
Okay.
I don't look at anything that's neurotypical as something that is wrong. I think God has placed us in this world, like, neurodiverse. I think we can't progress in society if we were all neurotypical. I think the way progress has happened is when there's neurodiversity. So moving along in life, like people are born this way or that way. And I think if we come to accept that, and even with people on the spectrum who are nonverbal, and you're thinking, oh my God, but they're communicating in some way. And dealing with someone that's neurotypical in any form, not just in the in ADHD, ADD, in any way, makes you look at things in a very different way.
Yeah.
And looking
at necessary.
Which is necessary. So I think it's purposeful. I don't think it's a cause of something. I think it's very purposeful that, you know, I read something or watched something that like the human race has progressed in life because of neurodiversity, because it's like that rainbow won't shine bright if it's just boring colors. You need to look at things differently. You know, Ahmad makes me look at, you know, music in a different way. He makes me think of, you know, scheduling in a different way. So it gives you some strength, or they have the strength as well. They can succeed in different ways. So I personally don't think so. I've done a lot of research. At one point I was like, oh my God, I think there was that actress. The blonde one. I forgot her name now.
The blonde one.
Yeah, the
That's
blonde
really
one.
Great. The blonde actress.
I forgot her name, but she did this whole thing at the time when I'm
What
at.
is she in?
She's like a B-list actress,
Oh,
but
okay, then I'm not gonna.
you're not gonna know it.
I'm not
But
gonna.
anyway, she was talking about vaccine being connected. I really don't think so. I don't think so. We would have a lot more people on the spectrum. It just doesn't make sense.
The reason why they're linking them is because it's increased, like the number.
Has it increased or has it always been there?
Well, there you go. I don't know.
I think
we can't answer this question.
I've been listening to a lot of, like, before podcasts, like when I found out, like listening to autistic adults and young adults and children.
Yeah.
And again, let's say, I hate using high functioning because I don't think it's about functioning so much, but let's say high functioning in our neurotypical world. And when you listen to them, you're like, how is this person autistic?
Yeah.
It's shocking, right? So maybe that kid in school, maybe I have autistic traits. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've had friends, they're like, you know, when I've talked to them.
It's funny you say that because what I've been going through with Khaled, I'll touch on it later, but basically he has something called auditory processing disorder. Spatial processing disorder is the smaller category which he's under the umbrella. I'm learning more and more about this. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
I'm learning about.
You're like, wait,
things,
is it his hearing? You're like,
what is exactly? What
yeah.
is this? And it is related to anything auditory.
Yeah.
So, and he did have that ear surgery when he was younger, and so yes, it's always has been linked to ears.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, I'm going through all these forms and assessments and things like this. This was pre-understanding what it was so far, and it's just I'm answering these forms, and it makes me remember how I was in school, and it was pretty much exactly the same. Maybe not on a behavioral level, but on a level of understanding and processing information and comprehension. I was like, that was me. That was literally me and my brother. So it's just insane. It's like, well, I find this pretty damn normal, and I turned out to be, you know, like a freaking A student, you know, pretty much top of my class in school. So you can see these struggles, and then what I did was hone in on my way of learning and just do it my way, and it worked out very well for me.
Yeah.
Or we can just say, oh, needs help, needs this, needs this, needs this. I mean, it depends on the child that you have as well, but I can just relate so much to my son in this specific moment.
Me as well.
Wild.
As well. I actually, you know, I love schedules. I love routine. I do get nervous. I have to talk myself down if I, you know, like today, I'm like, okay, 10 o'clock, but I usually work out at a certain time.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. That's
no,
good.
in that sense, like as
Yeah.
in structure, I like to make space for myself. I'm like, Dalia, calm down. You can work out later.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I have to talk myself down. So I completely understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
It's just that I have more control over those emotions. And I don't know if I've learned them. I don't know if, you know, I think when it's out of control, that's what's hard.
Yes.
So maybe you feel the same way, but where the difference is that they really don't have control over those things. And that's where it is so difficult as a parent, because you can't like beat it out of them,
No,
right?
100%.
You can't. I've tried every route, not the beating, but basically punishing, taking,
We've
doing.
tried every single way. I mean, of course not beating.
Yeah.
Maybe this close. This close. Like it's insane, but
it doesn't work.
No, it
It's
doesn't
not in their hands. So what do you have to do? You have to make sure that you give them the tools. You work on those things so that they're able to. But definitely going back, there's a lot. That's why I think, especially with girls, actually, there's podcasts I've listened to where they're like, we didn't realize we were autistic.
Yeah.
We didn't realize we were on the spectrum until later, because girls are really good maskers. Like we can, you know, we want to fit in. So that's a different kind of thing from a boy.
Fair enough.
You want to fit in, you want to look in you know, be in a certain way. So you can easily mask those traits just to fit in.
At what point, though, is putting people on the spectrum getting maybe a little bit overdiagnosed?
Overdiagnosed.
Because if you're functioning, how do I put this?
Yeah, like functioning in society.
Going to school, functioning in society, being able to do everything that is required of you on an education level, social level, relationship level, etc., then why are you being diagnosed? Like, do you believe a diagnosis should just be happening to the ones that need real
more
help?
Yeah, I think from the people I've listened to, it was more like saying, oh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like anything.
Yes.
And they understood themselves more to feel that, I think what it is that it's not in their control. They've learned how to cope with it, but it's not in their control. And I think that realization gives a lot of relief. And maybe that's what I've heard, is that to understand yourself and know that this is not something, I'm not being a baby about it, right? I really...
Like, I'm trying my best to have control over this, but I cannot.
I cannot.
Yeah.
I've learned now how to do it, but I have to, I think when you have that realization, maybe you will cope better in life, and then cut yourself some slack as well, right? I mean, we even as neurotypical, like we struggle with those things and starting, sometimes somebody can say, I just can't cope with this. This is, you know your lines, and owning up to that is important. Yeah.
Respecting your kids, whether you're on the spectrum or not, or you're neurodivergent or not, just respecting what they say, and boundary wise, I feel is so important. I think where it's gotten a little bit is this, am I respecting the boundaries or am I rolling over here? Where is this line? So if my son tells me I don't want to go to a birthday party, okay, and I understand why, and he explains why, because it's a little bit too overwhelming and too loud. And
which is amazing.
I love that he's decided and he's decisive.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed that this is his way of now getting out of wanting to do certain things. So where's the line? And where is me pushing or pulling back, right and wrong? Because I don't want him to be at home this much. I would really like to push him. I would really like, not force him, but push him to the point where he's trying. You have to try. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine.
Yeah.
I respect that, but we need to try everything.
So I love what you're saying, and I think that's exactly the attitude that needs to be taken. I have this issue every day, but I've realized, like, our responsibility as parents is to push. And I think you have instinct, and when khalas, when it's enough. So for example, the birthday party thing, you don't want him not to go to birthday parties. I
would love him to be. It's a childhood experience which you don't get back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go to hundreds of them.
No.
But here and there, I'd really love him to be able to enjoy a birthday party.
Yeah. And it's okay if in the end he ends up not liking that, but you need to, as a parent, push in every angle, try to make it. That's what I do, is make it as comfortable. And so when I'm pushing, I'm outside of his boundaries. Then I know, okay, that means today I have to be very specific about his routine. I want to follow the routine, even if he doesn't want to. We have to listen to the same music on our way in the car, because I know I'm pushing him. Okay. So I want to make everything around him
as balanced and consistent as possible.
So he can hopefully push through those challenges.
Okay.
And then sometimes it works and it's incredible. And sometimes you have to say, okay, fine. I can't do anything about it. But I do think our job is to push a lot, and it's hard. It's so hard.
It's draining.
It's very draining.
To be honest, it's draining, and we have different scenarios, but I think the core of it is similar. It's draining, and it takes a toll, and you don't always wake up feeling super energized or happy or in the mood as a human. And you have to be that Superman or Superwoman for your child who really needs you to show up that day. So
it's very draining.
It's draining.
But I'm sure you see it with
it's rewarding when the day's great.
Yeah, but if it's really not,
and if it's not, then I don't have the best evening.
No.
I sit there really questioning myself, going through a lot of sort of guilt and blame, and what could I have done? Should I have done this? Why did I do this?
But don't you think that's like kind of an accentuated version of parenting? What I mean is like, I see it with Lara. Like, there's a lot of things now at her age, she's 9.5, that I'm like, I need to push her.
Yeah.
Like, I need to challenge her. I don't know if it's like, work, and she was like, "Khalas, I don't want to do any more homework. I'm done."
Yeah.
Okay, I know it sounds stupid, but I'm like, no, I need to push, and that's also draining.
Well,
and
do you think you overcompensate with your other child?
do you think you overcompensate with your other child?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, maybe overcompensate is a bit of a strong word, but I do think, how do I say this? Whatever, it's funny because I also have kids who are just so different. So the things that Khaled doesn't like, Zaid loves.
Yeah.
And the thing that, well, Tara's still a baby, but
Yeah.
like all the things that Khaled doesn't like at all, Zaid is obsessed with. So I don't actually have to do much. I feel Zaid like kind of fills that box for me a little bit, like you know, going to football matches and
Same with
sports and team sports, which I don't do so much with Khaled. So he's filling the boxes there, and I think maybe I really do push him more than I should, in terms of, he's like, I don't want to go to football today, Mom, I'm so tired. I'm like, you're going.
Yeah.
And with Khaled, I'll be like, okay, let's take a breather, and then I'll try again. And okay, fine, it's fine. You don't have to go to whatever activity it is.
Yeah.
Like, let's take a breather, because he's one of the things with auditory processing is quite extreme fatigue.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that
all day.
if he's white
Yeah.
and exhausted, then I can't be pushing that much. But with Zaid, he's an energy rabbit.
Yeah.
Like, I can do that with him. And I'm a pusher. Like, I am that person.
Yeah. This is where we're similar. Yeah.
I'm going
as
to
well.
push because I appreciate being pushed as a child. It did wonders for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think, yeah. But then it starts kind of biting you, because now Lara tells me like, oh, you let Ahmad, like whatever, why can't you do that for me? And then you're like, okay, I want to be fair.
Oh, I get you love Khaled more than me, Mama. I'm like, no.
But also
no.
I'm sure you give them so much, because so much of our attention are on, you know, our number ones, right? Then
number ones meaning they were
no,
born
they're
first.
not number one. Born first. Just in case, Lara, you hear this. Or
born first. Number one. Zaid number two. Lara number two. Oh my God, imagine.
So then I feel I actually give Lara so much attention, a bit too much. Like, and I see it compared to other parents, a bit too much. I give in a little bit.
So that's the overcompensating.
And I don't like that.
Yes.
So now I'm like, whoa, scale back, make sure, because this is also not healthy. Yeah. So that's parenting, right?
At giving your child attention, there's no such thing as it being unhealthy, truly. There can't be.
Yeah. No.
So
giving in.
Oh, giving in.
Yeah, giving in. Because Lara's so responsible and she knows how to deal with her brother so well.
But that's like rewarding. You're rewarding her in a way.
But she now almost feels like so she's at that age like, oh, but he has to listen to me, or he has to. So that is again parenting. You're like, nope, you're still a child. You don't have that control. Yeah, you don't have that kind of control.
And
so then I do that a lot.
More bossy.
Yeah.
I think
do you see that already?
Yeah, and she's
how old is she now?
She's 2 in August, but like she runs around like she's the queen of the house. Like I had to take off my crown. I'm like, okay, and I'm like, no, I want it back. Give it back to me. You can be princess, okay?
Yeah, I'm the queen.
You're the princess.
Yeah.
And then my husband runs around going like, Queen Tara. I'm like, you're not helping.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't mind. It's fine.
No, of course we love it. It's cute, the relationship.
The
it's funny. It's cute.
But yeah, no, girls are just bossier, and she's very bossy.
Yeah.
Like she's like, she's not really saying much, but you can see she's trying to like control the house already.
She's like, you guys are under my control.
Give it to me. Like, she's so funny.
Yeah.
So okay, I guess we answered everything just within our conversation. But you have become and sort of harbored this community around you where you've become this go-to person, I think, for a lot of people to talk to. So I appreciate you so much for that. And I do feel there's something about your experience and your experience and what you know and how much you know that you're going to use in the future. I just feel you're going to do something with this. I don't know why. It's just a feeling. I've never told that to you, but I believe you will do something with kids and sort of kids who have extra needs, and I just believe you'll be this sort of beacon of light with it in the future. So what do you think about that?
I'd love that. I sometimes think about that. I think about people who have helped me through my journey. And I find myself very drawn to anyone. It's not even just when I see a parent, like when we're out and a kid has a tantrum. Yeah. It's not about extra needs, just a tantrum, and then how the parents react. I've been there. It's embarrassing. It's hard. So I feel very drawn to help them, because I know I was just like, someone help me. Just tell me it's fine. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
That's exactly it. Just please tell me this is fine. This is normal, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I remember getting off a plane and Rida and I were like screaming at Ahmad, and he was just, this was before he was younger, losing it. And then I saw someone I knew when I got off, and I was like, oh my, like honestly, it's horrifying. Yeah. And it's so scary. And I think that's one thing. And that's, if you just have someone saying it's okay, I would love to also help, because I've been helped and I'm still getting helped, and it's still a journey.
I think it's a journey.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever know everything.
It's just parenting kids who are not
typical. Whatever that means. This is a
whole journey, and people need help regardless. But then with this, it adds an extra layer of fear. Yeah. Because you're worried, and just to not feel worried is like, you gave me that feeling. Yeah. So thank you. Love
You're
you.
most welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Your pivot. I guess I didn't phrase it as a question, but would you be able to tell me, I feel even within all of this, you may have already told me pivots. Yeah. But I will ask the question, because this is the name of the show. Would you be able to tell me about a pivot if you haven't already mentioned them, or if you'd like to elaborate on any of them?
I mean, I think when you asked me to come on and I was thinking about it, I think probably the biggest pivot was Ahmad. You have an idea of parenting, and then, and how children are going to be, and they're going to play football, and, it was like, wait, what's going on? He loves football now. But before he wasn't, there's typical things that you have. And that was a pivot for me, because I had to turn my life upside down to start understanding a whole different thing, and that it's okay. So that, and I think there was little pivots. Like a big pivot is my parents, obviously, like it's a big one. Yeah. Palestine, I don't think it's a pivot, it's an identity. It's just who you are, for me. I'm hoping to pivot in career-wise as well, maybe into something like this, or into something with Palestine. But I want to be compassionate about. Yeah, I'm passionate about, and I've always had that,
and that
need.
You know this. Palestine obviously is your identity and your passion point, and then what you've gone through with Ahmad has become your experience, and then something you're also very knowledgeable on. Like, you understand, when I'm mentioning things to you, you're already like 5 steps ahead of me, and you really understand and know a lot about what you're talking about. So I do see, obviously, you're already very involved with Palestine, but even more so. And then, that.
Yeah, I hope I can go into those directions, one or the other. I'm trying.
Both.
I'd love to. Again, disclaimer, don't know enough, and just like when you're talking about things that you know a lot about, I think it's always a growing. Where I was 5 years ago, or maybe when I first talked to you, is very different to where I am today. Yeah. And I'm very well aware that I might have different opinions in a few years, because I'll have different experiences. Yeah. So I also, I think it's important that we continue to learn, and just know that there's going to be punches throughout the way. And it's not just with Ahmad, just with life. Life is not easy. Yeah. And I think it's how you come out of them. And if you can just maintain yourself, like stay afloat and make sure that you're okay. Yeah. Hopefully that's the formula. We'll see.
I really see that. And you were just talking, well, it's funny because my last question is related to sort of how your life has panned out compared to what you envisioned your life would be like. But so you kind of already answered. It's like you saw how you envisioned even just having kids. That got turned on its head pretty much, because you imagine football, you imagine basketball, you imagine going to, you know, the average.
Yeah.
Sort of the average things. And then when you don't do those things, it's a change.
It's a change, and it could be a bit lonely at points. But again, he's an amazing boy, like, alhamdulillah. I'm very lucky to have good friends around me and family, and like, you know, Rida's amazing as well. Like, he's his best friend, you know, which is really lovely. And they fight a lot. Like, they want to kill each other, but.
Don't all dads and sons?
I think so.
I mean,
I'm just like, stop it! Yeah. You know? But yeah, I obviously, like, graduating from, like, when I graduated from my master's, I had a very different plan, leaving DC, leaving Georgetown, very, very different plan in mind. But here I am, and I also had to pause when my mom got sick. Then I'm at the school thing. I had to pause career-wise. Yeah. And that's okay. And I'm trying to allow myself to say that's okay. And now I'm ready to go back.
Are you?
Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to figure out my career pivot.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So corporate, would you go back to corporate, or would you try to do your own thing?
So, you know, I was in fashion and then contracting, very different things. Yeah. I've always done my own thing. I think I want to be in something now. Again, to do either with education or Palestine. Those are, I want to go back to my core. And it wasn't because of just Imad, maybe the education became, but I've always been interested in those things. I left Georgetown wanting to work on Palestine, but then life took me in different ways.
Have you ever done an education, sort of those foundational education courses?
Yeah, maybe I should.
The reason why is that I think once you do that, because even I'll discuss this with you later.
Yeah.
It's a way of having some sort of credibility to then be able to go and speak to schools and like have involvement. So it's just an initial, very easy, basic thing. And then you can start to approach the education system, and you're legal or credible to do so.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's what I think. I think maybe I need to do some coursework. I don't know where. So if you've done some research, please
send you everything.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Because I do see also myself in that kind of field. I don't know in what capacity, but you know, Palestine's always in the background. You can always work on it at the same time. It's
a cause, and you will forever be contributing and working to that cause. Yeah. And it will be different every year, maybe. Yeah. Unless you have a foundation which you want to create, or partner with a foundation or something like that. Yeah. But you will always do that, and you always have been doing that. Yeah. So this is more, but career is different. Career is different. But I would love either or. So I don't know. I'm playing. I've applied this way. I've done this way. I am playing around and hoping. I'm in a better place with Imado and mentally and where I am. So I think I'm ready to, you know, I've been doing part-time with contracting for a long still, but I mean, ready to like shift and pick something that I really love, you know? Oh, I'm happy. I'm excited for you. Inshallah. Yeah. Amazing. It's like your pivot, this pivot. This pivot was great, but like, you know, I just need to, it's been a consuming couple of months, and my energy has been so focused on Khaled. Yeah. And now school's about to finish. Maybe that's why I just feel ready to like sort of come back and record, and my energy be present and focused and not scattered. And I want it to be authentic when I'm here, and not have this like deep worry within me. Making sure your phone's around you just in case. Exactly. I couldn't even put my phone two seconds away from me, because I'd be getting calls from the school like every hour. So now I feel ready, and I'm so excited to be back. Yeah, I'm excited. We're excited. And honestly, thank you for having me. Thank you for opening up to me. Well, you know, you're the. I get so lucky with the people that come on here, because, well, I think I do choose well, to be honest. But I also believe that this space is safe, and I just honor it so much. And you guys make it. Like, you come on here, you're very honest, you're vulnerable, and I'm so lucky. So thank you so much for coming. And I think we need to, I say this to a few people, but I want to revisit this in like a year. See where we're at. Exactly. So many for both of us. Exactly. But thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Again. Love you lots. Me too.